I spent 2 weeks researching a job that I already knew I didn't want. 2 weeks of conversation and research just to land right back where I started. That's not a decision process. That's avoidance wearing a mask. And it's costing you a lot more than you think. Let's talk about what this behavior is that I'm talking about. We talk about gathering information about this decision. And the reality is we're researching for permission. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's the truth. We start going and having conversations using our research methods, and it's all about validating what you know. It's almost like you don't want to share the ownership deep down, whether we realize that or not. In our decision, it's almost like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I don't want to take full responsibility, as bad as that might sound. And that's the problem that we run into here when we have our mind kind of made up, but yet we insist on doing all this research. Now let's talk about what the true cost is by wasting this time. It's not the wasted time like the 2 weeks or the hours or how much time you spent on making this decision in spite of all the research. You're eroding your self-confidence. And the way you're doing it, again, we're seeking for permission. What you've told yourself, whether you realize it or not, is I'm not capable of making a decision for myself. I need the validation. Yes, I may have gone with what I thought originally, but that permission seeking still undermines your judgment in your mind, whether you realize it or not. And think about the long-term effects that that could have on you and your progress in your life and, just in general. How do we go about fixing this or making a change in the future when this situation happens to us? I think to help, I'm going to share my story with y'all. So recently, I had an opportunity presented to me to go and apply for a position at my company. And on paper, it looked great. It was another potential $20,000 to $30,000 a year. I mean, that's pretty significant money. When I looked at the job description and their qualifications, it matched my professional experience shockingly dead on. Like, it was just checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And, on paper, this looked great. It was like, damn, it's a no-brainer. But my gut told me this isn't the right opportunity. But, the extra money per year, the fact that I had the experience, would probably be one of the top candidates. It just made so much sense in a way to still ignore what my gut was. So ultimately, I wasted these next few weeks. I, went and spoke to my friend that was already in the position. I, looked at what the industry standards were for this, just went down this rabbit hole of looking at it as a whole. And ultimately, what it came down to was, no, it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. I was going to be sacrificing another 15 hours a week for this job. When I looked at the pay that I was getting above and beyond versus losing that 15 hours a week, it ended up really being like, if you split down my current wage to what it would be when you factor in those extra hours, it really wasn't that big of a raise. Then it would have dipped into time I had for other goals. And so this leads me to the question I ultimately asked. And this would have saved me so much time. And the question I should have asked all along to just move on is, when I posed this, it was simple. And the question I finally asked myself, is this position going to get me closer to my long-term goals or not? And once I posed that question, it was pretty easy. It wasn't. I was giving up so much time for what ended up being that extra time invested was so small. And yet I was going to sacrifice the time that I was using to build my own personal brand, spend the time here, as crazy as it sounds at my stage, I was going to have to give up my running. There was all this stuff that I was giving up just for a slight advantage on one thing that would be just a short-term dopamine hit, which would end up leading to greater dissatisfaction with my life. And it was all because I just didn't ask that question up front. And that's what it comes down to, is just asking that question and trusting yourself. I think that's the second piece. Trust yourself. You know what's best for you. At the end of the day, other people can tell you what's best for you, but you ultimately know what you want, what's going to move the needle for you. So trust yourself. So bringing this all in, there was another takeaway that I had from this experience, and y'all might notice it too. Like, I knew what my long-term goals were. I'd priced them out. I knew what I wanted. I knew the road that I had ahead of me to get where I wanted to go. But there's always that middle area, right? Like on our journey to our bigger goal. And this middle area is not pretty. Like, let's just be real. It's discouraging. We have rocky roads ahead of us. And these decisions show up in those moments. And that's exactly what happened to me. Was this decision, this opportunity or potential opportunity, came at a moment where I had plateaued in a couple of the things I was working on. You know, maybe this channel, I was getting a little discouraged because you never have the progress that you want. And it was kind of a test of how much I really wanted my dream that I had said I wanted, that I priced out. And so next time this happens to you, again, ask that decision if what you're researching is going to truly keep you on the road that you're on or not. And also ask yourself, am I researching for permission, or is there some true validity to it? And I'm sure you're going to find that more or less you're asking for permission to quit your current dream that you're on, that you've said you wanted. And if it's simply permission, just stop and keep cranking on. With y'all, I think it's time to call it an end. And I recommend that you keep your journey going and check out this video right here. It's gonna help you on with your journey. At least that's what the YouTube algorithms have decided or determined based on its infinite wisdom. And with that, y'all, better every day.